Eleni, and this is the Mum Mumble podcast, a podcast I created in order to have discussions and conversations with various people on the island on the matters that are close to our heart. One such matter is mental health, a subject so broad I find that many are kind of unable to grasp the meaning and therefore the importance of it. So recently, with the help of today's guest, I have started to get involved in spreading awareness on mental health in Cyprus by working on a separate podcast, which is in Greek, yet it's called the Mental Wellness Podcast, with my co-host Poly Gregora, who is today's guest and who became a mental health activist or advocate, if you like, after receiving her own diagnosis after many years of suffering. We will attempt with this new podcast to simplify some issues and challenges around mental health in Cyprus, such as how and where to go for a diagnosis via the national health system. We also talk about what is a panic attack, what is anxiety, etc., etc. We're exploring actually quite a few avenues, which I'm very excited about. And today we are talking about a few of those avenues. A link for our mental wellness podcast, which is happening in collaboration with Black Lemon TV. The link for that, for the YouTube channel, will be in the show notes, so you can check that out. And now, on with the show. Switching to English. Yeah. Okay, right. We are recording in English.
Yes, and the coughing goes in English as well.
Daxi Poly?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome back to the studio, Poly Gregora, mental health activist. What we're going to do today is do a brief little discussion on mental health in Cyprus.
Yep.
We're keeping it local because I feel, as you have said to me in the past, that there is a lot of information that is not available in English. We have many expats and foreigners who need these services or help in any way, and it's not really easy for them to get it. So that's why you're here, because you've done all the groundwork, and you know plenty more than a lot of people. And the topic is one that should be our priority as a society.
Yeah, that's true.
Mental health.
Yeah, that's true. And the reason I wanted really keenly to do it in English is, we have a lot of foreigners living, expats living in Cyprus. And, there's a lot of podcasts, a lot of discussions that you can find on YouTube or, Google them in English. But they're not done here. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget, we live in Cyprus. Mm-hmm. So it's different.
Yep.
The information is different. Our culture is different. So there should be something given to foreigners of what are the services available within Cyprus.
Yeah.
So that's why I really insisted on having something done in English with the information available within Cyprus, mm-hmm. within our borders.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it was a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Here.
So we're going to get a bit into how you became a mental health activist, a bit about your background and your story, which is a very interesting one. And then we'll go into basic mental health 101. We'll talk about services, talk about the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And also, maybe we can also touch on the mental health of teenagers. You as a mother and grandmother, and me as a mother, what we're noticing and what we really need to tackle ASAP.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so Okay, so mental health activist. How did that come about?
Okay. Well, first of all, I like to consider myself as an advocate, activist. You know what?
Yeah.
Activist sounds really like, wow.
It sounds like you're in the streets,
Yeah, shouting
and pouring red paint
Yeah, something
over
like
paintings or something. Okay, all right.
No, which
It can be it's a good thing.
I do. It's just advocate. I feel that advocate represents me more because I try to do it in a peaceful way and to advocate for other people.
Good. I like that. Okay.
Don't take me wrong. Activist, it's also a relevant word. It's just that I try to sort of voice other people's feelings. And through my words, I would like to believe that I present other people who don't have a voice for now. Because my hope is that slowly other people with mental health issues will start talking themselves.
Is that okay? So before we go into your story, that's an interesting point. When we say talk about it, because the thing is that we hear a lot about mental health, and we also hear the overdiagnosis of it, maybe. And there's a lot of people that say talk about it. What does that mean when we say talk about it? What does that look like for you?
Okay, each person perceives things differently. When I say talk about it, is being able to sit. I'm not talking about sitting down, having a cup of coffee with your friend, and just spilling out your guts and saying, "Oh, okay, I have severe depression issues." No, what I mean is being able to discuss mental health issues as we discuss any other sort of illness, just as easily as we do about everything else. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So basically, lift the curtain of the stigma on mental health issues to enable people with this kind of illnesses to have a voice. I consider this very important because mental health issues are it's not something that you see.
Exactly. It's invisible.
It's not as if you have a broken arm or a broken leg or something. It's an invisible illness itself. So right here, right now, you could be going through a depression or a severe anxiety issue, and you're here with me. We're doing this podcast right now, and we're laughing. And you could have been home screaming with your sons this morning, and we're here doing this job.
Yeah.
But if you had a broken arm, I could see your broken arm.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
And you could see that it.
And I would ask you, Eleni, are you okay?
Are you okay? How do you get from A to B? How do you operate?
Yeah. So this is what I mean.
Okay.
So it's invisible.
Yeah.
So this is it. To be able to discuss these things, to have a picture.
Do you feel that the taboo surrounding mental illnesses is due to the fact that for some mistaken or not reason, we feel it's a vulnerability or a weakness?
It's a vulnerability, and it's mostly, it's a stigma, first of all. And the stigma has actually been created by the people themselves, by the families, by the medical professionals, which is even worse.
Really?
Yes, and that's the worst part of it all.
How so?
This has happened throughout the years. It's not something that happened now.
Okay.
So it takes a lot of work to push that stigma away and the way that people treat you. I myself, who went through that, having worked with people who who believed that they could work with people with mental health issues, but throughout the time, I could see that they still treated myself and certain others with prejudice. So it's really hard, even for them, to distinguish you as a person with your own personality behind the stigma of the mental health issue.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work. And everybody should remember that beyond the illness, you have a personality. You're a person of your own.
Yeah.
It's like beyond your rheumatoid arthritis or beyond your ulcer.
Yeah.
You are a person. So everybody should fight for that. You have a personality and you deserve to be treated with respect.
Yeah.
But firstly, you have to respect yourself. But you cannot seek respect from others unless you respect yourself.
Yeah. Oof, that's a big, that's big. That's big. That's huge, because when the messages that you're getting from society and from culture are telling you that you are less of a person because of your mental illness, it's very hard when you are already battling something inside of you to also be either pretending or battling society and culture.
Yeah.
And the messages that you're getting from them.
How can you believe in yourself when everybody is telling you that you're not equal to everybody else? Of course you have health issues to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, first of all, let's put it this way. You're lucky if you actually discover you have a health issue.
That's true.
In my case, was a mental health issue. So if you're lucky to discover it, then you have to accept it.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or both, because ideally you have to go to both, because you have to work on your issues. And then it slowly gets better. It does.
Okay.
And that's when you slowly start getting your self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, and then the respect comes.
Okay.
The self-respect comes.
So let's go back to you. You, what has it been, 20, 30 years now?
30 odd years.
Since you got your diagnosis?
No, my diagnosis, my actual diagnosis, I've had 15 or a bit more years.
Okay.
But I've been working, and when I say I've been working with myself, I mean, I've been going to a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, for the past 32 years.
Wow. Okay.
To be specific.
So why did you start going to a psychologist? And if you could tell people the diagnosis as well, for those who don't know.
First of all, I started going to a psychologist because as a teenager, so going back to our teenagers, what we said, it's not just for our kids and my grandchildren in that case. Even as I was a teenager, I had a lots of ups and downs, and we thought it was just adolescence and stuff like that. It wasn't. In my case, it wasn't, because I had a very unstable childhood, having been an immigrant, being born here and raised in Canada, then being brought back here, and then re-immigrating again to Canada, and then actually moving back here again. So I had a lot of backs and forths and never really belonging here.
Yeah.
I mean,
you never felt you had roots.
Yeah, I mean, a person, and I'm sure all of the expats that are listening to us right now, they feel the same. Once you lived in two countries, and I say it and I get goosebumps right now, once you've lived in two countries, you never belong anywhere.
Yeah, I feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always feel that you belong to the other place that you've left behind.
And then when you're there, you feel that you
want to go back there. I mean, your home is the other place you've left behind.
Yeah.
So imagine me that I had gone through that about 4 times, I don't know, and I've changed about 7, 8 schools in the meantime. Because the Canadian system is you go to elementary school, then you have senior school, and then you have high school. Okay. And in the meantime, there were a lot of moving around from one house to the other. Yeah. So let alone the fact that I was changing schools, I was moving countries, and I was changing, elementary school, senior school, high school. So very unstable.
So you never had that consistency that is needed.
Let's say I never had any childhood friends. There was no stability in my life.
That's it, yeah.
So, any child, you get screwed up. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
I think anybody would be screwed up. by having such a life. So, we thought it was just the moving around and stuff like that. It wasn't just that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And by moving back here, and as an adolescent, I said I wasn't pretty well okay. I was seeking food as reassurance. So I was into comfort food as a teenager. So I was gaining weight. I was going up and down with my weight. And I've actually just discovered that I've got osteoporosis, and my doctor just told me, I haven't told you this, I was just told that the reason I might have gotten it so young could be because of the fluctuation of my weight.
Really?
Yeah, because of the eating disorder I have.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just a new gift I got last week. Actually, this week.
That's so nice.
Yes,
I'm so
it's
happy
a
for you.
wonderful gift I got. Yeah, I was so happy to hear that 2 days ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
we'll do another podcast on this.
Well, yeah, eating disorders massive.
Yes.
See, we can add that as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So
okay.
let's go back to So I had that. I was into comfort food. So it was like pack of chips, Coke, not smoking Coke. I mean drinking Coke.
Okay. All right.
So I was just drinking like a liter of Coke. I was eating donuts. So a lot of my Canadian and I'm sure American friends could relate to that. Chips, Coke, and donuts. I was on a daily basis.
Wow.
So I was full of pimples. Canadians were all blonde at the time when I was living there in the 70s, late 70s. And I was dark-haired, hairy. And
I feel you.
I was the odd one out. So,
I feel you.
Yeah, I was the odd one out. And I could really stand out in front of all those blonde kids. Thank God I was tall. So at least that was something. But I could still, I was different. I didn't speak English properly at the time because I was little. I didn't know any English. But I was standing out. And I had those terrible pimples from all the junk food I was eating. So no friends, so changing
Puberty
schools.
is not fun. It really isn't. Adding to that, the fact that there was
I was into really bad depression.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. I was into depression. I wanted to move away from Canada. I came to Cyprus. I got married to my husband. And then the mood fluctuation started. And my husband said, look, I love you. I adore you. But you better go see a shrink.
You need some help.
Yeah. So we had our first son at the time. But, I just couldn't cope. I was crying. I started... As soon as I had my son, I went through an anorexia. And I had lost quite a bit of weight. And that's when I started working with myself because I had to get my head together.
Yeah.
I knew there was something wrong. I just didn't know what was wrong with me. Because there was a lot of fluctuation of moods, ups and downs.
Yeah.
And this wonderful journey of self-discovery started. Since then on, with a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
But you know what? I feel blessed that I'm going through it. I feel sad of the people I've hurt along the way. But on the same time, I'm happy for the lessons I've learned, and it made me. I was always very caring as a person, but it made me even more empathetic towards others. And I have hundreds of stories that I've tried to help people, not because, and I'm not doing it to brag. I'm just thinking of all the people that I've tried to help when I've always thought of myself in their shoes, and I'm always trying to help them. Yeah. Because I don't want them to feel any of the pain that I might have felt at the time. So, and yes, indeed, I am a people pleaser, which is not always good because I can always feel the pain of other people. Yeah. So I was always going through that, and I've been doing therapy ever since. It wasn't a road full of, with rose petals.
It wasn't. It wasn't. It sounds like it wasn't. So,
it wasn't, but it helps.
Yeah.
It's been worse. It's better. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's easy. At some phase, my doctor told me, my psychologist told me, look, you know what? We're at a phase right now that I think you need some medication to stabilize you so we can start working a bit deeper. So I think you have to take some medication. Then I reacted, to tell you the truth. I said, what do you mean? I have to take meds? And he said, you know what? Yes, you do.
Why?
Because I had to unblock myself. I was at a phase that I was so blocked, we couldn't work deeper.
Okay.
And then after the first shock, I agreed and I started taking medication. And it worked. And we started working deeper. And that was, I think it was 2012 or 11 that I've started taking medication. And ever since I've been on medication and I'm much more stable. So there's no serious mood fluctuation. Of course, there are side effects. But one thing I want to emphasize to people is you have to see what you have to
weigh
sit
the
down.
Pros and cons.
You have to weigh the pros and the cons. If the pros are much better than the cons, it's worth it. It's worth every time you take that pill down. It could hurt my stomach. I have to have regular tests for my liver and this and that. It's worth it, though. It's worth it for myself. It's worth it for my family. It's worth it for my friends.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do take my pills every day.
Okay.
Yes, I hate taking my pills every day. Yes, I get lazy sometimes that I have to take my pills every morning and every night. But I do take it because it makes me who I am. And sometimes I wonder, is this me who really is me? Or is it the pills talking?
Do you wonder what you would be like without the pills?
Of course I do.
Do you have an answer to that question?
You know what? At the end of the day, I don't really give a damn. Because I like who I am.
Yeah.
I like who I am. And I've come to terms with who I am. And for sure, I don't like the fluctuations of who I was. Of what I had.
Yeah.
I don't like the fluctuations of what I had because I don't like the consequences. Like last week, something happened which really threw me off board, and I really thought I was going to have a stroke. It wasn't for no reason. It was something very serious, and I'm sure if somebody else without pills, they would have had a stroke. So, no, I like taking my medicine, and I do believe that a couple of years ago I used to wonder, is this me with the pills or is it not me with the pills? Now I know that this is myself, the real me, with the medication, with the help of the medication. Yeah.
Have you ever had difficulty getting access to your medication in Cyprus?
Not really. And the good thing is because of the medical system now with YESI, the medical system, thank God, you have access to it, so you don't have to pay so much money. Beforehand, it was more expensive. You had to pay for it. And it was quite a lot of money.
Okay.
But now, because we pay so much for the YESI insurance through the government, there's easy access to the medication. So that's really good. And
that is good.
We don't have to pay much for the psychiatrist and psychologist. The only problem is we don't have much access to clinical psychologists.
All right, we're going to get into that. We'll get into that. Give me a minute. Okay, we'll get into the psychologists and psychiatrists and the difference and who needs what. You said earlier maybe you might need both. Can we quickly go back to your case? And could you, the diagnosis that you got was that you have bipolar.
My diagnosis, actually, most doctors, they don't like making an actual diagnosis.
Oh, really? They won't label it?
Which is good.
Ah, is it?
It's very good because
Okay.
doctors, the last few years, they don't like labeling people.
Okay.
It's like when you talk now, don't they tell you it's not good to label the child? Like, don't tell him you're bad.
Yeah.
They tell you you're doing something bad.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. But no, I was going to say that even, well, in my case with my 8-year-old who has been diagnosed with learning disability, we were actually told by the educational psychologist, by both of them, to not mention that word to him before he's like 10, 11 or 12 years old. Absolutely no need to label it.
I was going at the time, I was seeing a doctor who was a neurologist, a psychiatrist, and a homeopath. Okay. And I was doing alternative medicine as well as psychiatry. And I had insisted at some phase. Mind you, the first time I was going to him, I was saying, okay, for how long do I have to take medicine? He was going, a little while longer. And he was a really sweet man. And and it was wonderful because I didn't feel I was going to a psychiatrist. For how long do I have to come here? And for how long do I have to take medicine? Just be a little more patient. Okay. And I kept pushing him, what is my diagnosis? Because he was giving me medicine, but he didn't tell me what my diagnosis was.
Okay.
And I kept insisting and insisting and insisting. So at some phase, I said, can you please tell me what do I have? What's wrong with me? And he said, okay, I believe that you might have bipolar disorder.
Which is, could you explain to people what it is?
Mind you, I'll go a bit back and I'll tell you that my clinical psychologist who was seeing me beforehand, his diagnosis was borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
So I had two different diagnoses.
Which are completely different?
They are and they're not.
Okay.
They could be very easily mistaken between the two of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So one is a personality disorder, as you can hear from the word. The other one is a psychiatric disorder. It's a mental disorder. So one is personality disorder. The other one is a mental disorder.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, fine, fair enough. So
Are there levels or degrees of seriousness when it comes to a personality disorder?
Look, the personality disorder, you can very well treat it with, as far as I know, okay, because I'm not a doctor.
Yeah. From what you've learned.
Yeah, from what I've learned, from all the Googling I've been doing, my husband and myself. The disorder, you can pretty well treat it with therapy.
Okay.
And you might need some medication as well, depending on the seriousness of the case.
Okay.
The other one, it's pretty well the same with the treatment.
Okay.
Depending on the seriousness. So I started therapy. Of course, I was doing therapy. And said, okay. So as soon as we left, Google library.
Yeah.
Okay, oh, this is it. Okay, this is something very serious, I could do this. My God, this is something serious. So I was leaving and I was crying out of the office. My God, this is so serious and this and that. And then...
it sounded scary.
Like shit.
Wow.
You feel your whole world is falling apart when you get the diagnosis. But then you realize that...
Isn't there a sense of relief as well, though?
It was exactly. You got the words out of my mouth. It was a relief because you finally know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So it was this wonderful sense of relief that, okay, now I know what was wrong with me. And it wasn't an excuse, but for my actions in such a case, but at least you know what was behind them.
Yeah.
And
it's not because you're a bad person.
You got exactly. It's not as if I was a bad person.
Yeah.
That drove me to do these things, because once you go back into bibliography and you start reading, you can see what a person with such a diagnosis will do this and this and this. So it all made sense. But when you go back and you also read about the other diagnosis as well, that person could do this and this and this as well. So it's very easy for somebody to mix the two diagnoses up.
Okay.
Anyway, that was my diagnosis. So I accepted it. I dealt with it. And I've been living with it. And I'm glad to finally have whatever diagnosis that may be.
Yeah.
It doesn't make, at the end of the day, what I wanted to tell you
Yeah.
is, it doesn't matter what diagnosis it is. Just putting your word down on a piece of paper doesn't make a difference as long as you take the proper medication
Yeah.
to make you better.
Yeah.
They're just words.
Yeah.
They're just words.
And unless you do, I was going to say that especially with bipolar disorder, I don't know if you know, I think we talked about this at some point. I can't remember if it was on a podcast or between us, about Kanye West, who has bipolar
Yes, he
disorder, and how much that discussion and that conversation came to the forefront when people, the media, realized that this man is not taking his medication. And this is what you're seeing, all these outbursts, all this antisocial behavior is the result of a person not dealing with their mental illness the way they should be.
Exactly. For example, my psychiatrist who sees me right now, he does not believe I have bipolar disorder.
Okay.
He believes I have borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
But I've come
It doesn't matter because you're doing the work.
Exactly.
Okay. It doesn't matter because you're taking your medication.
I went into a state of shock when we had this discussion back in August. Really shocked. Because I was in denial. And I go, what, am I fake? You know, all this time I was told I have bipolar disorder. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But then I've come to terms and I realized that it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
I'm doing the work. I'm taking my medication. And I know who I am.
Yeah.
So they're just words.
Yeah. Yeah. You know that there's something there. There's something going on.
I accept.
You accept it.
I accept that
Bravo.
there's something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as the acceptance is there
Yeah.
and you work towards getting better, that's all that counts.
It's not a wrong if what you're doing is trying to make it right.
Exactly. That's why I said, So now I understand why the doctors, they don't like putting labels. Because I was one example of such a case.
Yeah.
So as long as they give you the proper medication, which at the end of the day, it's the same medicine.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, did you go into whether this is genetics, whether it's something that's in the family?
There could be a possibility because I see that my mother had, some ups and downs. But they never had any tests done, so I don't really know.
So that's why I was
talking different generations.
That's why I was asking you, because even with in our case with the dyslexia and the learning disabilities and a slight form of ADHD, apparently, it does come from the family. Yeah. But obviously, in our cases, you've got mothers, father, you've got parents, you've got grandparents, who have never, ever, ever.
Who would have tested them at that time?
But they weren't even available, I don't think.
Exactly.
Tests were literally not available.
Seriously,
but it kind of makes sense when you think of it. You go back to thinking about something that your mum used to do or your yaya used to do, and you're like, I can see that there may have been something there.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I can see certain patterns in our family that, I can relate to, or some other family members, even now that, are common with my reactions.
Yeah.
So, but how can you know?
Yeah.
So what I can do is just try to support myself, make myself better, and try to give a better example to the rest of my family and hopefully to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Do you feel that asking questions also helps? in your case,
Asking who?
you or someone who, by the way, do you suffer from a mental illness or do you have a disorder?
You can suffer by anything. I mean, you can suffer.
That's true. You can suffer from
You
this
can
heat.
suffer from the. Eleni, today you've been putting words into my mouth and vice versa.
We've been hanging around with each other way too much, I feel.
Seriously, I think it's the fourth time today that you've been putting words in my mouth and vice versa. Yeah, you can suffer by anything. It's a way of looking into things.
Yeah. But I feel that it's more...
I don't suffer by my mental illness.
Yeah.
No, I've been coping with my mental illness.
But you have a disorder.
I do have a disorder and I live with it.
Yeah.
It's a way of looking into...
Yeah.
It's depends on what perspective you look into things.
Yeah.
This is my life, and I learned to deal with it, to cope with it, and I try to make the best of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can suffer, but as I said before, and I'm repeating myself, I know, you could suffer from the heat, or you could try to make the best of the heat.
Yeah.
So that's it. You could suffer by anything.
It's so true. Okay, right, let's get into the services. Because you and I went deep on this at some point.
And we didn't get through it.
And we just... we gave up.
Exactly.
No, we didn't give up per se.
But we got lost.
It was very confusing. And at some point, I feel that the information we were getting in that meeting was just... way too much, and I just shut down. I was hoping that you and Andrea would be picking up on anything that I was missing. So let's go back to basics. Let's not scare people and make them think that what's going on is complete chaos. It's not. But what is available, and I'll make it easy for you. I feel that I have something's going on. I feel I need help. Where do I go first? When it comes to the national health system, yes.
Excuse me. Okay. As far as we understood, okay, because it was pretty complicated to understand.
Yep.
We have to go to our GP, and our GP has to give us a referral to go to a psychologist.
Psychologist.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, if we feel we're depressed and stuff like that, this is my suggestion. And it's MY capital letters, block capital letters.
Okay.
Don't accept any medication from your GP if you say you're depressed or whatever.
Are GPs allowed to give medication for...
They are allowed by the system.
What kind of medication?
But they have no proper training.
Oh, wow.
To give such medication.
Okay. Oh, you know what comes to mind now? I've heard it a lot with perimenopause women.
Exactly.
Being told, just take this.
Yeah. Just take these antidepressants and you're going to be okay. No, GPs are not trained. But it's not their fault. It's the system, the insurance system, allows them to do so.
Okay.
No, go to your gynecologist.
Yeah.
I mean, you're allowed to go to your gynecologist if you're a woman, and your gynecologist is going to give you what medication you need. It could be hormones, which I don't agree on anyway.
Okay.
But they'll give you whatever you need.
That's a whole nother area. Let's not go there.
Let's not get into that.
So GPs
you go to your GP
are allowed to give you antidepressants, but you recommend, based on your experience, to insist on seeing a psychologist.
Yes, of course. It depends on the cases. You cannot go to a clinical psychologist about everything. You could go on depression, severe anxiety. There are certain things that you can go. Severe anxiety might not be the case. We have to clear out with a clinical psychologist on what cases an adult can go to a clinical psychologist.
Okay.
Now, some things that we know for sure are that you go to a clinical psychologist only through a referral.
Okay.
All right? You pay 10 euros for every visit. There are 12 appointments only that you're allowed to go through a year.
For the year, okay.
Which is unheard of. Okay, that's definitely unheard of. Especially if you have a chronic illness.
That's like literally like one a month.
Okay, that they can go up to 18.
Okay.
Remember when I asked her that, and I said, what about people who have long-term illnesses like mental health issues, like bipolar disorder or severe chronic depression and stuff like that? And she said, oh, they can go to psychotherapists. And I go, but then they have to pay normal money, which is like 60, 70 euros. And she goes, well, then they pay. And all three of us were just looking at that lady.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of the dead ends, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
that was pretty stupid.
So let me try and explain that in my mind. So YESI, the national health system, does not cover psychiatrists.
They cover psychiatrists. They cover clinical psychologists and psychiatrists.
But for very specific cases.
Cases.
Okay.
Then, if the clinical psychologist sees that you need a psychiatrist, then they will give you a referral for a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And then you will go to a psychiatrist.
So a GP cannot refer me directly to a psychiatrist?
As far as I know, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right.
And then you will go to a psychiatrist.
Okay.
For example, I go to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. I have visits. I go once every 2 weeks. So what I have done to suit me better, so I have coverage every week, I go 1 week to my psychologist. The following week, I go to my psychiatrist.
Okay.
So I have done it this way.
You've worked out a system.
Yeah. I've done it this way. So I have coverage on a weekly basis.
Right.
So I have support like this all the time.
So apart from the obvious difference between a psychologist and psychiatrists can give you medication, a psychologist...
And they can still give you support. I mean, when I go
What's the difference between the two? When do I need a psychologist and when do I need a psychiatrist?
Psychiatrists will give you medication.
Okay.
Okay, but that doesn't mean they just pop pills into your mouth.
Okay.
Okay, don't think of it that way. It's just like, that's it, and you're gone. No, that's not the case anymore.
Okay.
I know there's still some that do that, but the majority are not like that, thank God.
Okay.
No, there's some very nice psychiatrists now, and they don't belong. They don't all belong in the hospitals. You know, the good thing with the national health system now, you can find private psychiatrists that are all over.
Okay.
They have their own private practices. So you have a wide range to pick from, to choose from.
So that was my other question.
Same with psychologists.
How do I choose my psychologist or my psychiatrist if it comes to that? And also, every time, I don't know, for instance, if I pick a psychologist out of the catalogue, I don't like them, I try and find another one. In the meantime, all my appointments are being used up.
All right. But it's like you go into the catalog. I wanted to mention that. You go into, you sign in, you go into YESI. You don't have to sign in. You don't have to log in if you don't want to.
Okay.
You just check the catalog and see in the city you live in.
Okay.
And to see which clinical psychologists or psychiatrists are into the YESI system. Okay. And you pick them and you make an appointment and you go see them. Yes, you do use up that appointment. So the psychiatrists are €6. The psychologists, as I said, are €10.
Okay.
So you go see them. You have to make the appointment yourself. And the reason I specify this for psychologists is no one should make the appointment for you. And there's a specific reason for this.
Okay.
It's because they want you to be responsible for making the decision for you to go.
Wow.
It's not like, I want to go to my gastro.
Yeah.
No, for the gastro, for example, you could call for your husband and make the appointment. No. For the psychologist, you have to make the decision within that you want to go and work with yourself.
Imagine how meaningful lifting that phone up.
Exactly.
And making that fall is.
Yeah, you've done half the work.
Yeah.
So, and also by canceling that appointment, they say most of the time, you have to pay for it, even if you don't go.
Yeah.
So once again, it's the whole procedure of taking responsibility.
Okay.
It's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's the responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
So going back to that. So you check the catalog, you make appointments, and you go check them out. You really go check them out.
Okay, checking them out. What does that mean? Are there specific... Do you recommend that I ask specific questions, or is it just the vibes that I'm going to get from that person?
You go, you check the vibes, you talk to them, you see what suits you. It's like going on a date. It really is like going on a date.
You and I haven't been on a date for many, many years. I'm sure there are single people now listening to you, Poly, going, do you think it's that easy to go on a date?
No,
it's just as hard.
It's not easy.
But I see what you mean. You have to...
There are people...
You have to be able to tango with that person.
If there's no chemistry...
Yeah, that's it.
It's not going to work.
Okay.
I mean, I was going to my psychiatrist for the one I was visiting at the beginning. The first psychiatrist I've been to. Actually, I went to one the first time, and I left there, and I said, I don't like him. That was it.
Okay.
And then I went one visit. And then I went to the other one, and I was seeing him for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And then because he was abroad, he was in Greece, so then COVID happened, and I couldn't travel. So I had to find one here. And I went to one, the first visit, and I just said, not working for me. Dark office, dark desk. Then I went to the other one. I had booked 2 appointments, so with 2 different ones, and I said, I'm going to go check them out. I went into his office, and as soon as I saw him, I said to him, you're the one for me. You're stuck with me, man. And he's been my doctor for the last 3.5 years.
Wow. You got lucky.
I got lucky, and God bless him. He's there for me. But he's the one I need.
Yeah.
Like, I need this kind of a doctor. He's my doctor. And because of what I do, I see him at seminars as well. There we laugh and stuff, and we talk like one-to-one. But when we're in that room and the door closes...
It's business.
We're talking business, honey.
Yeah.
That's my safety zone. What goes there, nobody knows.
Yeah.
There's respect from both sides. And we're talking business there. Because I can trust him.
So find someone you can trust. Find someone you feel good with. And keep
you
trying.
Know he's professional. Keep looking.
Keep
if
looking.
you don't feel that there's this chemistry, leave.
Yeah.
There's no maybe. You have to leave. No. Maybe give it a chance. Once or twice, we could always go wrong.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel it after the second or third time, because we could always be wrong. Let's put it this way.
True.
Leave.
Okay.
Because we're people.
All right.
There's always has to be chemistry.
Okay. Right. Let's move on to our last subject that I mentioned. Very important one. We're talking to parents here, Poly. You've parented 2 boys. You've raised them. You have grandkids now. I have a 13-year-old son. Our kids' mental health. What?
And the parents' mental health.
And the parent. Well,
raising them.
To be honest with you, we've said this so many times, and I think through all the podcasts that I've done that are relevant to this topic, it always comes up. You have to deal with yourself first as the parent, and then move on to help whatever it is that you're going to help your kids with. So with that out of the way, do your work, people. Get the help you need. No one can do anything alone. Fuck knows we need that village. All that jazz and all that shit. Let's concentrate on our kids now. What are you noticing with your teenage grandkids when it comes to mental health and living in this crazy online world? I think mental health, kids' mental health, and online, the internet, the digital era goes hand in hand. I cannot get that out of my mind.
My God. They live... First of all, it's a different ballgame.
Completely.
I mean, I've got two sons, as you said. One's 37, the other one's 28. And I remember my eldest one was complaining. He goes, Mom, you bought the other one a phone, when he's still in elementary school, and I got mine when I went to high school. And now I see my grandchildren, and I don't remember when the eldest one got a cell phone and stuff like that. So it's a different ballgame. Yeah. They're addicted.
Do you feel it's an addiction?
It is an addiction, and it's been proven actually by Mental Health Europe and everywhere that the use of cell phones and everything, gaming, it's an addiction.
Should we be treating it like every other addiction, or does this need
Yes.
a different kind of
No, it is an addiction.
treatment?
It is an addiction. It is an addiction, unfortunately.
And what is the research showing when it comes to our kids' mental health? Because also, and I really hope that we do touch on this on our podcast that we're doing at Black Lemon, which is also a video podcast. Whoever wants to check that out, I'll put the link in the show notes. We'll be doing both Greek and English, but I forgot what the question was. I forgot what the question was.
Something about research about the kids and the...
Yeah. I really wanted to touch on this, on how screens and the digital content is affecting their brains. But what are you noticing, or what are you seeing when you speak with...
I'll tell you one example.
Okay.
I've been studying now for something, and I was telling my 16-and-a-half-year granddaughter that, you know what, I think I've been using AI to help me a little bit on these questions I've been dealing. She goes, Grandma, and that was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How old is she?
16 and a half.
16 and a half, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So she's in grade 11. She's going to be grade 12 next year. And she was telling us last year, the year before, that she uses AI to do her essays.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives you an example.
I've heard that.
Okay.
I've heard that happening.
So, and she's not the only one, I know.
Yeah, no.
So that tells you a lot. And she's an excellent student, mind you.
Yeah.
Imagine all the other ones who are lousy students.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is their life all the time.
But
TikTok and this and that.
But I did want to say that also, I don't know by the time this episode comes out if I would have released the one. It's in Greek. I did an episode with the president of the ADHD organization in Cyprus. And she was telling me that we have a 10% of students officially diagnosed with ADHD. That's just the ones who have been diagnosed.
Exactly.
And that's 10%.
Which is a big number.
Which is a very, very big number. And which also means that you've got another shit ton of kids walking around with no diagnosis, no recognition, no acceptance of what's going on. And that is one of the main reasons and one of the surefire ways that a kid could get into trouble.
I'll tell you why, though. One reason I think it's hot. You're too lazy to bother playing with your kids inside the house. So the easy solution is you either give them a tablet, put kids YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you yourself, it's an easy way out for them, for you, to put them on TV. So I did it when they were kids too.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I heard, who was it? It was with Mahi that you had.
Mahi Glanthus,
Yeah, it was with Mahi you had that. Sometimes when they were little, like really little, and we wanted to eat, just at the time when we were eating at a restaurant, I would put at our
You
time,
would prop that phone up on the glass. You would.
We had at that time we didn't have that. We had PSPs or whatever, so we would give them the PSP and we had them play, so we could eat really quickly.
Yeah.
And then we would play with them.
Yeah.
And so we all sort of did it during our time.
Do you know, I mean,
but that was it.
That was it. But also, remembering now when Mahi said that, and I could see a lot of parents literally picturing themselves doing that.
Oh, I did that.
We did that. And I said that we do that as well. I feel that one of the reasons why I do it is because I don't want my kids
to embarrass you to everybody else.
Not just that, but disturb everyone else as well. So, I mean, you've also got this thing in your mind that my kids have to sit still and have to be quiet in this environment. Therefore, the only way that I can manage and accomplish
them up.
is to give them a bloody phone. But you know what that also says? That says so much about society as well. And the fact that even though we say that, oh, we love kids and we love families and this, we actually don't like kids and we don't want them disturbing us while we're having lunch or dinner. And the fact that you or me, as a busy, very, very tired, exhausted mum, you're risking going and sitting at a restaurant and having your kids do what kids do, which is shout and jump and laugh and run.
It's true.
And risking having someone come and tell you off because your kids are being
kids.
And then,
kids.
You having to deal with all that self-doubt and guilt that we anyway go through. And it's the vicious cycle.
Yeah. Last Friday specifically, we went to a pizza place with all my grandkids. Mind you, the two little ones are 5.5 and 3.5.
Oh, that's a lovely age, isn't it?
Oh, wonderful. Especially if you're a grandparent and they get to go home afterwards. So after they ate, because we didn't give them any phones, after they ate, whatever they ate, they were just running around and rolling themselves on the floor and everywhere. And I was just looking, and I would tell them, Lucas, get up. Theo, just get up. And of course they wouldn't. But there were other kids at the pizza place as well, because it was a school place. So all the parents, they booked a table at the pizza place.
Yeah.
So there were kids from the nursery school there as well. And they were all rolling all over the place. And my husband and I and my youngest son were just looking at ourselves. And I go, okay, guys, let's eat. And then we can all just go home. And that's it, enough.
Yeah.
But you can understand they're kids.
It takes a special kind of awareness, Polly, to
They're
say,
kids.
I literally don't care if my kid is rolling around on the floor. And the thing is that in Cyprus, for some reason, any contact a kid has with the ground or dirt or... Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do.
It's like automatically, no, that's so bad. Is it? Isn't that what kids are supposed to be doing? Touching everything and rolling around and running without any shoes outside or without any clothes, as long as it's just a safe environment, obviously. But, I mean, we either have to decide as a society whether we embrace families and childhood, or if we are just going to, what's the word that I'm looking for? Just keep them quiet and silent in front of a screen.
You know what?
And at the end of the day, what is better for their mental health?
In Cyprus, the society lives too much for what the neighbor is going to say.
Yeah.
We're too busy. We're too busy worried of what the other person's going to say.
Yep.
And this is a problem we always had as society. We live, and we're both Cypriot. So, but anyway, this is the reality of things.
Yeah.
We're just too worried about what everybody else is going to say, what they're going to do. So this goes around as well. If our kids are dirty, what they're going to say, what they're going to do, what we're going to wear. So, having been raised in Canada, I really never gave a shit of what other. I remember when I first came here, I was wearing shorts. And my dad goes, "You're going to Cyprus. Women don't dress like that." And he goes,
Women don't have legs in Cyprus, Polly.
It was early 90s. And late 80s. My dad goes, women don't wear shorts in Cyprus, you know? And I came here with short hair and I was wearing shorts. And he was so, because he left and he had the mentality of then.
Yeah.
And I go, Dad, I don't care. You know, I am who I am and I still am who I am.
Yeah.
So people live in a box.
Yeah.
And neither you or I belong in that box. I think that's why there's chemistry between us.
Yeah, you're right.
So, of course, the children are in a box as well.
Yeah, there you go.
So, what do you expect?
Yeah. Right, so we will be discussing these issues and many more. We've got a massive list. Already we've planned our next video podcast that will be coming out on the Black Lemon TV channel, which will be in Greek. We'll be discussing all these services that are available. We will be accepting questions from people as well. So if anyone who's listening to this also understands Greek and will be watching that one, please send us any questions that you have. Mm-hmm. We will have a psychologist with us on the next one to answer those questions. And we'll also be talking about, is it panic attacks?
Severe anxiety.
Severe anxiety. Okay. So we'll be talking
disorder.
about that. And then I'm hoping that after every Greek episode that we do with Black Lemon, that we'll be coming back here to cover it in English for the English audience.
That would be excellent, actually.
Yeah. I think whatever we gain and learn from those podcasts that we'll be doing in Greek with the specialists, we can then move it onto here, this platform in English. Yeah?
That would be excellent.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of English listeners, so
there is.
Really be helping
and
people.
As I said, anyone who's listening to this and wants to send a question or an observation or maybe some difficulties that you've had accessing services in Cyprus, send us an email at eleni@georgiesmummy.com. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
And thank you. Beautiful person. Thank you so much, Poly.
Says who?
Like I say, I'm a bit sweaty right now, but
both of us.
I'm still glowy, aren't I?
With your beautiful booklets.
With my beautiful booklets that are up right now because there's no way they're coming down. Thank you so much, Polymore, and
my pleasure.
See you soon on the podcast.
Definitely, and just send us your questions or any queries you might have.
Please, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.